luckily I've been over the last few days been messing around with different grits of new sandpaper, different ways of getting it to shine, different ways of getting rid of these huge divots here. You can see really quite deep. There's another fairly deep one, and just generally getting it back up to show condition and leveling these, because it's one thing getting rid of them, it's another thing once it's shiny getting the finish to be even. So that's quite a trick. And also coming up to the end of the sanding process, which I discovered was more than 800. In fact, the best results I've found is going up as far as 1200, which really does start to take out a lot of those scratches. But I think the main thing I'm learning here, if I want to get this to look really nice and do it in a fairly quick manner, is to not skip a process from 80 up to 1200, to go through all the different grades of sandpaper. And basically what we're doing is we are profiling. What I mean by that is getting rid of these deep gashes here with 80. I found that a rotational like this here, a rotational, so in other words just a spinning head, really does do the job the best. You can put the fan on if you want, yeah. It really does work the best for getting rid of these deep cuts. But then, of course, you're left with all the swirls. So they're different routes. I mean, you could use something like this, which is an oscillator. So it basically does that. And that seems to, even with an 80 grit paper, just spinning in a different way, seems to create swirly marks that are easier to get rid of than the spinny cut. So I found that to be helpful. So it's going from 80 to 240 only because I don't have anything other than 240 on the oscillating pneumatic. But that does get me a long way along the journey of getting this thing free of as many scratches as I can, because once I get to the buffer stage, it really is a lot of fun. You just watch it shine up so nicely, and it's really frustrating when you see deep scratches, swirly scratches, because I've either missed it or I've tried to miss a stage like I showed you in a previous video that I did. So there's no shortcuts here. There's just, unfortunately, the long way around. Yeah, I'm really enjoying this stage. I didn't really think I'd go this far, to be honest. I thought, I'd get it up and running, but as soon as I see any shiny bits or luster, it gets me going, and then I just have to do it. So this bike really has led me to where it wants to go in the restoration, and I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that I'm going to be restoring this to absolute mirror finish showroom condition. It's going to be probably a little better than what you would get if you bought it new, because I wouldn't have spent this much time polishing and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's worth it. I think it's going to give the bike a long life after I've moved on from it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And also working with these materials without having plastic is so refreshing. Just not having any plastic anyway. It's just been, I hate plastic. I hate it. I hate it on these things. Retro plastic, just rubbish. But good old bakelite, good old aluminium, good old stainless steel, brass, leather, like leather loom straps. I mean, that blew me away. That was really nice thing to see, even though they needed to be replaced. It just makes you want to finish this bike nicely. So I'm lucky enough to have this facility here for the carbon bike place, which gives me access to these tools. But you can do this by hand. You really can. So let's see how we get on. grinding paste on. This is not the polisher. This is kind of the rougher paste. This is the polishing side. Okay, here's the problem. If you start too soon trying to polish it, you're going to get, first of all, you can see the DREMEL marks there. So those are causing problems. So those have got to be removed. And these dips have to be removed. And then you kind of get to a state where it's going to start to look like this. But even so, there's still these rough scratches which need to be taken out. So I started with 80 grit DREMEL, 80 grit rotation, a sander, orbital sander, and then 240 grit. So I'm going to go 80, probably 150, or 120, 220, up to about 400, and make sure this is all level and nice, and then the polishing machine will do its work. I just wanted to see, again, you know, you always try and do these things quickly and get this restoration done, but if you don't do it right, you end up with more problems. So you just can't skip any. So first of all, get all the marks out, the dents, and then work your way back from that. You can see I cleaned out a burr, but now it's left a ridge. So that's all got to be smoothed out. So let's see how mirror finish we can get this. Okay, so here we are sitting at 400. We got rid of most of the deep scratches. So we've gone 80 to 120, 180. Oh, sorry, 80, 150, 220, 320, 400, and I'm about to go into 600. Now, there will still be occasional little scratches, but those will buff out a bit and certainly shine out. But at the end of the day, it's going to be as perfect as you're going to really want it to be without being silly. It should look a lot better than it did before, so that's the main thing. Right, folks, this is it. That's buffed, finished. I don't think I'm really going to bother getting any more than that. All the scratches, marks, unlevel surfaces are pretty much gone. I'm sure there are folks out there who say, oh, that's not good enough, they could make it better. Well, it's good enough for me, and that's what matters. I'm really happy with that. Considering it's going to tarnish, and over time, you've got to find a polish that's going to work with this, because at the moment this was done on a buffer at fairly low speed with a kind of a cutting paste and then a polished paste. So, really, that's about as good as they get, I think. So let's see what it looks like on the Enfield when it's done. Fitted the screw back in place because I can buff that all together. Cleaned up the edges, which were rough castings anyway. But yeah, free of those big gouges, which is good. Let's see what it looks like before and after. I'm noticing it's it's got a sort of pits in it, tiny little pits. And I'm wondering whether that's just the quality of the aluminium at the time. But yeah, that's going to look very nice. I'm happy with that. We're figuring out some basic stuff here about whether it sparks open or whether it sparks closed.
So it sparks when the point's open, and the reason is that when the points are closed, you're sending the current to the primary winding in the coil. When the point's then open, it interrupts that and the electromagnetic field collapses, and that sends the 10 or 20,000 volts off to the spark plug, and that gives you your spark instantaneously.
So it's not when it closes, it's when it opens.